Hello there, and welcome to your first pre-course prep. Now, trust me, if you do nothing else in this course, just do this because it will literally change your life, and I'm going to explain why here in just a second. Creatives tend to suffer from an ailment called time blindness. Maybe you've heard of it. Basically, it's when you're not able to naturally feel the time shifting in a continuous state over the day. And that in itself is one of the main root causes of the anxiety that we feel as creatives. It gives us a sense that we're behind or that we're disorganized because time itself offers a lot of context to the situation. Because without context, it's impossible to determine a lot of the useful baselines that we should be aware of, both within our personal lives and within our business. So imagine this. Let's say I asked you to make me something. Now, you've never made this before. You've never seen anybody make it. You've never heard of it. You have zero idea what it takes to make it, what goes into it, what the supplies are, none of it. Okay? Doesn't matter what it is, just that you have no idea how to do any portion of the build of it, if you will. How much would you charge me? Okay, you don't know, right? So let me give you some pretend numbers. So let's say all of your supplies and your material costs are going to be like $5,000. So that's just to get the supplies. It's not to make the thing or any of that. Just 5,000 means that that's what it's going to cost for you to make it. But you still don't know how or what it is. You just know that it's going to cost you 5,000. How much would you charge me now? So, I mean, you know that it's going to be 5,000 to break even, but how much is that time worth? And that's when I really want you to take a look at your business. And can you honestly say that you know what and where your average times lay? How long is your average shoot? How long does it take you to edit? How long is the reveal, the follow-up? How long are you putting in to get your client? How many hours are you putting into education, to learning new things, practicing, responding to comments, looking for new ideas, so on and so forth? You get the idea. Look, if you're somebody who just knows all those things already, congratulations. We hate you. Just kidding. But seriously, you can skip this part and you can just leave us some tips below on how you're doing that and let us pick your brains. Now, if you're like me and you get into you get sucked into the vortex of time is, hours or days, and you can't tell the difference between the two, then stick around. This is definitely for you. So I ran into this problem, and I still struggle with it some days, but I'm so much better at it, and I promise you that you can absolutely get better at it too, and it just takes a little bit of practice, and it's really not as hard as you would think. To understand your time, you're going to need to do two things. You're going to need to start tracking how long it takes to do the stuff that you do, and then you're also going to need to be aware of your own things so that you can determine your schedule for success, which I will talk about here in a minute. But before I talk about that, I want to start with just tracking yourself because it's actually really, really easy. Now, first thing you're going to do is just go ahead and go to www.clockify.com or just the link below, and you're going to either download the app or you're just going to you're just going to use the website as it is when you work. And you don't have to be a crazy tracker or anything. You don't need to organize anything right now. I don't care. I just simply want you to use it and have it ready to go. And I'll explain why in a minute. So it's basically an app. You can customize it. It does have a desktop version. It's completely free. You can do a paid version. I've been using it forever and I've never needed the paid version. The one thing I can tell you though, a little tip, is that if you want to have the value of your money match your clock so you can actually see what projects cost you, then you can put your hourly wage in there. If you're a salary or if you take a yearly income, like say you make $500,000 a year, you can just take your $500,000 and then hourly is just half that, so $250 an hour. So, same if you wanted to do $100,000, then it would be $50 an hour. And that way, when you're looking at these, you can actually see your time literally add up and kind of compare what that is, because you'd be surprised. So Basically, all I want you to do is anytime you're doing anything to do with work, I don't care what it is, doom scrolling to actual work, you need to clock in and clock out. Don't worry about categorizing any of it right now. I don't care. I really don't, because I think that it will make it seem like it's too tedious and it's hard to track. And trust me, when you're doing these things like habit stacking, it's easier to start small and we can work our way up as we get more comfortable. So basically, any system's better than no system, because we can always improve on the system later and make the system better. So Clockify is going to be a way for you to clock in and out, and then you can look and see how much you work over the course of the week, the month, the year, and so on and so forth. Now, eventually you can get to where you break it down into times and categories and all that, but please do not do that at first, because it's just too much to track. It really is. Just get used to using the damn thing. So when you come here for your training, you should be clocking in and out. So your final challenge for the day, and another kind of fun and easy one, is to discover your optimum time frames for success. Now, I recently watched a video, and I'm going to link it below. Now, I suggest that you absolutely watch that video, because it's a really good video, and I'm sure you'll take a lot from it. But he explains so well, and I'm just going to break it down to where it's not a 15-minute video for those of you who don't feel like watching it. Basically, he discovers that if you ask what the one daily habit that makes the rest of your behaviors happen automatically, then you'll be able to determine the remainder of your schedule for that day. Now, I love that concept, and backwards, or working things backwards, is a concept that you'll be experiencing later in this course too. But for now, I want you to ask yourself that. What's the one daily habit that makes the rest of your behaviors happen automatically? He paints a really good example of how he needs to be awake at like 5:30 in the morning in order for his stuff to, kind of play out the way he prefers it. Now, this isn't my first foray into the domino effect and habit stacking, but it is a very fresh and new perspective and a different way of looking at it. So I asked the question to myself, and honestly, at the time, I just kept overthinking it. So instead, I just kind of decided that I would base my schedule around how I felt, rather than what I was expecting myself to do at work. I wanted to go to work when I had the most mental clarity and energy, which was like 6 in the morning, but I was already struggle busting it just to get to work at like 10. You guys know what I mean. But after some thinking, I decided that in order for me to feel like really well rested, that I needed to get to work when I was at my peak, which meant I needed to get to sleep at no later than 10 p.m., which meant that I needed to be literally in bed so that I could wind down my crazy ass by 9. So aside from that, the rest of the schedule really didn't matter for me at that moment, but I decided that I would make a schedule that I would like to stick to, and just kind of get used to feeling the amount of time that schedule would take. So in other words, I set a bunch of alarm clocks, kind of like he does in the thing, and I let them go off all day, every day, even when I had no intention of doing the thing. And I just knew eventually that I wanted my schedule to kind of feel something like that. And I'm going to introduce you more into self-limitations as we go through the course, but I wanted to briefly touch base on one thing, and that is shame. Your personal abilities do not determine your wealth. Just remember that. And as a person who used to grind for like 12, 16, 18, 24 hours sometimes, you realize that when you're grinding, you're grinding. That is not when you're at your best work, okay? What you really need is to be realistic with yourself about what you're comfortable with committing to and what you're able to do. I originally wanted my schedule to be like 60 hours work week, that kind of thing. But that was before I really started to track myself and my time. And after getting really honest with myself and what my body was able to do, and doing my best not to actually push myself during those times, and actually listening to my body so that I could develop a real sense of a baseline, is something that I highly recommend, and is something that I really want you guys to think about doing too. You see, your brain, your body, they don't care if you think you should work 60 hours a week. While raising like 6 kids and a goat and whatever, and running 3 businesses. They want you to do all the things to keep you relaxed and happy and, just preserving your energy. They're there to keep you in check, all right? So that's why they don't want you to overdo it either. Did you know that your brain consumes 20% of your body's entire energy resource, even though it only takes up a little bitty portion, definitely not 20% of your body, okay? So, did you also know that when your brain's learning something new, like a new task or something that's like, foreign to you, it actually needs more energy. Literally, it needs more energy. And so basically frustration is the brain's muscle fatigue. And that's an actual fact. I actually recently discovered that because I have a whole plethora of learning disabilities that I'm slowly uncovering. And simply understanding that my brain requires more fuel and more time basically to recover post-exercise has changed so much for me, because now that I give my time or my brain the time to wind down and have time to recover and relax and trust it more, the performance I'm getting out of it is much, much better. So a lot of this course is going to be kind of talking about those types of things and just basically working that muscle, which is your brain. And also for those who love sweets, that's why your brain works so hard. It wants direct nutrients, and brain food is sugar. So that's why a lot of us like our sweeties. Me at least. Anyways, I realize now that I look at myself from a more realistic lens, working 40 hours a week is probably more my speed, and I set my schedule as such. So I went to bed at 10, I went to work by 7 a.m., off at 3 p.m., and there I just filled in the rest just to kind of start a good sense of what the schedule would look like. And it basically came out like, let me look so I don't mess it up. 5 a.m. wake up, 6 a.m. shower / meditate or lay in the bed with dog time. If it's a long day. 7 a.m. work, 3 p.m. off, 7 p.m. eat, 8 p.m. stretch, 9 p.m. get in bed, okay, and 10 p.m. at bed. And before I move on to the next part, I just want to briefly mention that a lot of the reasons this really helped me is because of a thing called transitioning. And I started to find that going back and forth between things is really difficult for my brain. And it comes to find out that's actually a thing for creatives. So we're having a little section on how to do those types of things and how to make it easier for you to transition from, say, your comfy bed to work, or from work into, family mode, or whatever that might be. Now, I have been using this method for approximately 3 weeks. I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass and say that this is something I've practiced my entire life. I have never done this. I have my little alarm set. I will show you. See, I have that many now. I've worked my way up. So I've noticed several things on this, and I feel like my sense of time is just way, way better. Just the simple fact of it going off at set times every day has really given me a sense of when something starts, when something ends, how long it takes for me to do things. It's helped me to fill in more gaps of time. So if you're somebody who struggles with time blindness, this seems to be the thing that has helped me the most. And now I'm finding that without the alarms, I actually get up now at 4 in the morning. At first I couldn't even get up at 5. I started at like 6, I think, initially. And then after a while, I just kept doing what it was. And I finally had that excuse. Well, hey, I have to do the in bed by 10. That was a frickin' game changer for me. Okay. It did every single little note. I didn't hit every single one of them, but like that bed one, that was the one, because if I got in bed by 10, I was good for the next day. Now, things change and things can happen and yada yada, but for the most part, it works. So I definitely suggest doing that. So that little trick took me from a very groggy 10 a.m.er to a very bright-eyed and bushy-tail 4 a.m.er. I'm just I'm getting ready to start working a cycle where I'm at work at 5 a.m. now. So just thinking that 3 weeks ago, I barely could get to work at 10. And then by the time it was like 11, I was tired. And now I'm finding that I'm putting in my shifts a lot easier and without stress. So let me know what you think about this. Of course, do watch the video because he explains it a lot better. But I felt like he should do that himself since it was inspired by him. Let me know if you tried any of these tricks before, and if not, let me know which ones you're most excited to try. So just to recap one more time, the only thing that you're really going to have to do is just start clockifying your time. Now you can track it different ways. You don't have to use Clockify. It's just important that you can see your time accumulating over a period or a span. And I really do have to say that monetary value added is really, really cool, because when you start seeing, like right now with just the outline of this, I saw that it was $25,000 worth of my time just to write the outline. And I was like, wow, okay. So it's very interesting to be able to look at that and start understanding where your time goes, even if you have your business on lock, even if your salary. We're not doing this to discover your pay rate. We're just doing this so that you can start to see where to invest more time and where you can start cutting time from. It's basically us taking a realistic look, because I'll tell you, once I really started to be accountable for my time and my actions, a lot of things started to change. So okay, I hope you guys are excited. This, of course, is just the very, very first prep work. We're going to have some more stuff coming out in a few days on Monday. So just go ahead and keep track, and I will see you soon.